But in the news over the past week and a half, you've heard all these talking heads go through the gamut of whether it's compulsory or discretionary, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're talking heads, number one. But, some of them really believe that if there's any sort of force that threatens one of them, all of them must jump into the fray. And by the same token, there's some people on these talking heads who say, well, we really have our own discretion to do whatever we want. So really NATO doesn't make any difference whatsoever in the world today. So you have this large dichotomy, which is why you've asked us to chime in on it. And a lot of it comes from this Article 5.
Right. And I mean, and the whole thing is that looking at the history and reading it and seeing how it was set up, it's very specific. It is, because it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, it's specifically designated where the incident must happen in Europe or North America. That's it. Then it's only if all the members, NATO members, agree that if it's something occurring outside, like say the Middle East or somewhere else, then all the parties have to agree that, okay, yes, this is something that we're going to get involved in. But if a country wants to really, and you have had countries now that have said, no, we're not getting involved because of this. It doesn't affect Europe. It doesn't affect North America so therefore we're not getting involved. Also, the other doctrine that applies is that it is a collective self-defense. But when you read it, it also, and later on in the charter, it refers specifically to Article 51 of the UN Charter, which deals a lot with, and it really lays out what is collective self-defense, what is preemptory self-defense, when is it acceptable and not acceptable. And if anybody wants to take a look at it, I have a full post of this inside the community post on our YouTube page as well, but where I go through and discuss all of that. The biggest issue is that it has to be an attack that it has already occurred, that NATO does not get involved in preemptory self-defense actions. And so that's why we're having this issue now.
One of the things we're going to link below also is the actual NATO website, which is rather interesting. You should look at it. I need some fun. Let me take a look at the NATO website now. But you start looking through it and you actually start reading it. You're like, wait a minute. They talk about NATO actions that are still going on in Iraq. That's not the North American or European continents. They talk about this involvement with the African Union and talk about different things going on there. They talk about these different things. And when you also look at their history and their stated purposes for being, now 80 years or so, almost 80 years after it's been signed, they have this thing called strategic concepts, which they implement from time to time. And when reading it, they talk about how now they look and their primary focus is on diplomacy and trying to bring diplomatic means to bear in order to strengthen the alliance and protect each other. Although they also do acknowledge the fact that now we have to worry about terrorism, the rise of China and its aims and goals, in addition to the rise of the Russian Federation and what they're doing in Ukraine. And it's all in these strategic concepts. So they talk out of, my opinion, both sides of their mouth. We have to focus on diplomatic measures, but we also do need to realize that we have all this really bad stuff, and we're already pouring all of our, they won't say military assets, but they'll say their interests to backing Ukraine against the Russian aggression. It's a lot of little bit of everything that spreads all over the page. And again, stemming from a very vague treaty from 1949, that in 1949, no one was going to have the understanding or the ability to understand what the world was going to be like come September 2001, what it was going to be like come January and February of 2026. Anyway.
I mean,